love Toastmasters. We all have a thing in common in this room. And no, it's not our interest for public speaking. Anyone remembers this? It's a Nokia. And we're all sentimentally connected to it, I believe, especially if you're born in the 90s. But for God's sake, who would use a Nokia in 2016? Especially when we live in the era of smartphones. My grandma would say that the only thing the smartphones cannot do is boil Greek coffee for me. Well,
it does.
You never know. Ladies and gentlemen, we live in the era of endless choice. And we're supposed to be happy about this, right? And I came here today to tell you what? That too much choice is bad. How can this be possibly refuted? Well, I came here to tell you that maybe, just maybe, having too much choice is not as bubbly and nice and cool as we think it is. Why? Because too much choice disorients this magnificent but cognitively constrained machine called human mind. And we end up looking like this. And when we look like this, three effects might kick in. Number one, inertia. You basically make no choice when you have to. Number two, suboptimality in the language of economists. You essentially make bad choices. Number three, dissatisfaction. You're never happy enough with your choices because maybe something better was out there. Well, I believe that all three are fatal to our happiness. They make us stressed, frustrated, and perpetually dissatisfied. So let me show you how this nightmare of overchoice is omnipresent in our daily lives. I have this wonderful, very intelligent friend in London. And she's great in many things besides one, choosing. She really has difficulty choosing from a very long menu when we go out. So she stares at the menu for a very long time and she contemplates about it to the point you would think she's choosing a pension plan instead of a Bergen or a Caesar salad. So one day she told me, Emma, listen, I'm gonna take you to this amazing place you're gonna adore. So we went to this place. We waited in the queue for 30 entire minutes. And I was wondering, why on earth is this place so special that we have to wait? Up to the moment I saw the menu. So this place offered just 5 types of pizza, 2 types of wine, and just 1 dessert. Well, in the capital of consumerism and abundance, London, this place took a different path to success. They took the burden of choice away from people. And people simply adored it. Well, that's something that marketing experts have been long proclaiming. If you want your customer to buy, make it easy for him. Classify his choices to as few as possible and make it crystal clear why choose one over another. However, how many times have you experienced this wonderful feeling? Sitting in front of the supermarket shelf and wondering why on earth we need so many different types of toothpaste. Most likely you're about to have a heart attack, just like this gentleman over there. Or let me go to my favorite example. Who enjoys buying jeans? Come on, be honest. Well, I stopped wearing jeans in high school. And for 5 years I was saying, oh, well, you know, it's not my style. I prefer skirts, as you can see. The thing is that now that I go about it, I can clearly see that what was torturing me was the buying process. Well, this oversupply of jeans paralyzed my mind, and my subconscious reacted how? By tuning out. So, ladies and gentlemen, I believe that the problem of choice is omnipresent on a daily basis. Let me give another example with my Christmas tree. I tried to buy a Christmas tree this year in London, and I spent 3 sleepless nights on Amazon and eBay, convinced that the perfect tree for my living room was out there, waiting for me to discover it. Tall enough, dense enough, and cheap enough, of course. And as an economist, I'm supposed to be happy about this, right? Because I'm supposed to be a rational, utility-maximizing human being who prefers more to less. The problem is that this thing did not only cost me money, but unnecessary stress. And even when I received the parcel from my porter, I was wondering, oh my God, is it the right choice? So the rules of economics, I must say, were defied. More choice did not make me freer, but victim of my own escalating expectations. So what needs to be done? Scientific research, there is a problem here, but yes. Scientific research has long dealt with the issue of choice in the face of uncertainty and competing options. 2 Nobel Prizes in economics were awarded on this matter. You won't see the dates, but you will remember the names. Number 1, Herbert Simon, on the notion of satisficing versus maximizing. And number 2, Daniel Kahneman, on the use of heuristics in decision-making. On the other edge of the spectrum, we have management science, which gives you plenty of options to deal with too much choice. The problem is that it looks like this. Clearly, none of us resort to such stuff when we make daily choices like buying tomato sauce in the supermarket, choosing your kids' education, or maybe accepting a job. So I believe that we need some rules of thumb to discipline this chaos in our minds. And here are my suggestions. Number 1, realize you're privileged and don't feel guilty about it. Well, having choices is definitely a privilege. And I was blessed to be born in a family that gave me plenty of choice. I could study in Greece, I could study abroad, I could study in public school, I could study in private school, I could even not study at all, in fact. Autonomy was a golden rule in my family. Sounds ideal, right? Believe it or not, sometimes I hated it. I was looking for someone to take the burden of choice away from me, and my lovely mom was always saying, do whatever you think is better. The decision is yours. So, while growing older though, I met people who were just the opposite of me. They just had one shot and they had to make it work. Just like my Palestinian friend at the LSE, who crossed the border from Palestine to Jordan on foot and changed 3 means of transport just to be able to reach the airport, buy a ticket on the spot, and be able to fly to London to study. Well, every time I go to the library, I see him sitting in the very same spot studying. And he reminds me of all those people who just had one choice, and they had to make this choice successful in lack of something else. Well, my advice to you is what I promise myself to do every time I look at him. Realize you're blessed, you have choices, and make it work. I have seen way too many times people with less choices outperforming the ones with many. So we should all feel privileged we have choice at least. Number 2, narrow down your choices. We are often so obsessed with having choices and backup plans that not only we're confused choosing among them, but we overspend time creating options for ourselves. So have you ever heard about the secret ratios to finding a job? Well, in London there are many of them. You need to apply to 100 applications, to be called in 10, to have an interview in 5, and be given a position in 1. Other people say 50, other people say 15, and I don't know what. The question is, okay, you make many choices, but how can one possibly want to work in 100 companies? And it doesn't seem rational. My point being that the more choices you create for yourself, the more quality of each choice might suffer. And this is not only true in our professional lives. I want to share with you an example from my personal life, my yoga class. So earlier this year, my yoga teacher gave me a very nicely done plan of asanas. And I quickly skimmed through it, and with my big ego, I said, well, this is so easy. I'm sure I can do more than this. I want more variety, bring me variety. He's like, great, Emma, make your own plan and try to follow it. And that's what I did. Despite one tiny detail, that it was so packed with positions I could not possibly fill on a daily basis, and soon I abandoned it. So my advice is that in this case, we should not follow the rules of economics that say that having more choices will make us happier, because we might not follow them at the end. So we should maintain a healthy balance. On one hand, having enough choice to have room for maneuvering, but on the other hand, be able to choose among these competing choices and self-impose limits on ourselves. Do not make your life hard. When you have less choices, you should be more able to deal with it. Number 3, and final, lower your expectations. You don't always have to be perfect. The secret to happiness is low expectations. Barry Schwartz says in his book, The Paradox of Choice. And it's truly a paradox, even for me, standing here with you today, urging you what? To have low expectations? Me, that for 23 years, all I could hear ringing in my ears was, Emma, have high targets, aim high, Emma, do not settle. And yes, I completely agree that we should have high targets. It's just that at the same time, we are often unhealthily obsessed with the next best alternative. And in this aspect, economists are precisely right. We are obsessed with opportunity cost. When you do something, you give up doing something else. But where we're all precisely wrong is that we focus too much on the road not taken instead of what we actually do. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, maybe there was a better toothpaste out there. Maybe there was a better school for your kids' education. Maybe there was a better husband. But so what? What can we do now about it? You know what they say about women? We spend half of our lives looking for the perfect man, and the other half looking for the perfect black dress. And I'm part of a generation that has plenty of options of both. At least I want to believe I am. The problem is that we should be able to maintain a magic threshold between the two. Having high targets enough to help us progress, but not too high to hold our happiness. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the blessing, but also the curse of our era. We can turn this to our favor or make it our worst enemy. Yes, too much choice can paralyze our mind, can make us stressed, can make us frustrated. But what we should not forget is that choice is there on the first place to make us happier. So we should make it work in one way or another. No science, no research paper, and no speech like this will give you the answer on how to do this. Why? Because the answer lies on each one and every one of you. Yes, our Nokia lives maybe were less stressful because we had less choice. And by no means I'm urging you to revert back to it. What I'm urging you to do is think that maybe the problem doesn't lie on the number of choices themselves, but the user. So what I urge you to do is become an intelligent, critical consumer of the choices the world gives you. Probably it's true that less is more. Thank you very much.